You are listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. Thank you for downloading and subscribing. Coming to you virtually live from high atop the historic Raleigh building in beautiful downtown Raleigh. The NCF&B takes the listener behind the scenes to tell the stories of the people that contribute to the creation of the food and beverage community of North Carolina. And now, the misfits in the dish pit, the faces of the front. They are Max Trujillo and Matthew Waas.
Hello, and thank you for listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. I am your co-host, Max Trujillo.
And I am your co-host, Matthew Waas. And today on the pod, we are talking about Indian spice and everything nice. And to help us do that, we have the owner and founder of Sugar and Spice Bakery and 2 Cheeni cafes, Miss Preeti Waas.
Mrs., but that's okay.
Well, isn't Miss acceptable to say for everything?
And it's Preeti.
I said Preeti.
Oh,
Preeti
check
Waas.
the tape. We can check the tape.
Check the tape.
Hard T. You said a hard T.
You did.
I did, right?
You did.
No, you said it wrong, she's saying.
That's okay.
Okay. Mrs. Preeti Waas.
You roll the R. You didn't really have to, but that's okay.
Mrs. Preeti Waas.
Yay!
Yeah, there we go.
I'm going to edit it just in segments of incorrect, kind of okay. Anyhow, thank you so much for being on the show. What was it you were saying right before you came on?
I was saying that I had a major fangirl moment being invited to be on this podcast. I was like, wait, are you serious? Let me check that email again. Are you sure?
Yes, and my ego needs to be stroked. So you said that off mic, and I went, no. Wait till the mics are hot so everyone can hear how cool we are. No, but
You are.
look, we have seen your growth literally with our eyes while we are recording here on the 4th floor of the Raleigh building. Because Cheeni, your first place, your first brick and mortar in public,
Yes.
right, is literally eye shot from us on Fayetteville Street. Mm-hmm. If this tree wasn't completely overgrown right now, I could
In the
actually
fall.
see your
In the
front
fall.
door. Yeah. Damn spring and all your lush greenery. But your first place is inside, oddly enough, let's explore this, inside a YMCA gym.
Yes.
One that I've belonged to. Not currently, as you could tell. But you are part of the, was it the Pointer Gym? Wait, what's
It's the Pointer YMCA.
Yeah, the Pointer YMCA. At one point before you guys, I think there was a coffee shop that was there.
Yes.
And then you took over the space. I mean, I don't typically try to scope out gyms to be the place I open up an Indian-style cafe, but you did. I'd like to know why.
Well, I wasn't scoping. I had no idea Cheeni would exist 3 weeks before it actually existed.
3 weeks?
3 weeks.
Whoa.
Yes.
Talk about a lack of lead time.
Born ready.
Right.
But no, it was because I used to be an adjunct professor at Wake Tech, teaching culinary boot camps and teaching all the CE classes, anything to do with food and event planning. Well, the YMCA reached out to Wake Tech because they wanted to do a combination like teaching, training, space. They wanted somebody in their empty coffee kiosk space who would also provide some sort of a community piece, I suppose. So I was introduced to the YMCA, and the second I saw the space, I was like, why would I want to open another coffee shop in downtown Raleigh, when there are so many within walking distance? It doesn't quite make sense.
Sure.
And then I asked for about a day to think about it, and I parked myself outside the YMCA, and I started talking to everybody who was coming to the gym, coming in and out. I talked to all the staff, and I asked them why. Why did 2 coffee shops not make it in this space? And they said, well, they didn't really offer food.
Yeah.
And I said, well, it is a tiny little kiosk. It's just supposed to be a beverage bar here. And fortunately enough, I own a commissary kitchen. So I can cook or bake anything I want over there. And I was able to bring it to the space. And then my thought was, what do I want to bring to the space? Now, you know, when I said I'm not politically correct, and there's a lot of...
Bring it.
For about 25 years, I've edited myself in this country.
Hold on, snowflakes.
Yeah. Go la 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 la. But Yeah, for almost 25 years, I've really edited myself, my identity, my roots in this country. Everything I've done has been to assimilate, to not stand out, to, to try to just fit into the fabric of this country when I didn't really look like I fit. And so that's what Sugar and Spice Kitchen, my bakery component is about, is, baked goods like your grandma would make them, things like that. It's very, very American, right?
Yeah. But your grandmother's different than
that's correct. I said your grandmother.
Yeah.
So not mine.
Yeah.
Now my husband is Caucasian, so I was taking cues from his grandma, who I loved dearly. And so all my baking was an homage to her. But then in looking at this space, and I kept thinking, what do I want to do here? And I realized, what's really missing? And I think mostly in America, in the American landscape, what we Indians miss when we come from India are the corner snack shops. And they are ubiquitous in India, anywhere and everywhere. Chai, veg puff, little jeera biscuits, filter coffee, that's what you find. And I said, that's what's missing. So that's what I decided to open. And the word Cheeni means sugar, so I took it from my Sugar and Spice Kitchen bakery.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's connect the dots a little bit right there.
Yeah.
So let's go back to more about, you started with Sugar and Spice Kitchen, which I think originally was coming out of your home kitchen. Was that right?
Yes. My home kitchen was licensed.
Right, and which you can do in North Carolina. We've discussed that previously. That's a great kind of low barrier to entry to getting your own business started. So you had your kitchen. By the way, what does that look like? I am going through all the permit stuff right now, which is super fun. It's like really easy and never have a problem. But what's that process like to get your residential kitchen turned into a commercial kitchen?
It's really not very difficult,
right?
At all. It's time consuming, but it's not difficult, and there's no cost to it. But
does someone have to come to your place and check it out?
They do have to come inspect the space.
Yeah.
You cannot have pets. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, is that hair? Is that dog hair in my puff?
If I were to tell you the number of people who are selling commercially and cooking and baking out of their home kitchens, and they have pets running around, it's shocking.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the inspector's getting high and fluffy.
Slightest soissant of catnip.
You're right.
Yeah.
Wait, so Preeti, I want to know, when you were standing outside
that time, Matt. Good job.
Thank you. When you were standing outside the gym, and these sweaty people that were finishing their workout, walking out, so they said, "Oh yeah, we want a traditional Indian bakery."
That's exactly what they said.
Yeah. How did that inspire you to do this?
I tend to be one of those. I don't look like it, but I'm kind of a rule breaker.
Okay.
So every coffee shop I ever
White ants after Labor Day every year.
Oh yeah, bro. But that rule only applies, by the way, to like up north, because here it's now cold. I mean, it's now warm, so you can wear white already. You're wearing a white shirt today, white pants.
I'm sorry, Southern women.
Well, no. But before, it's supposed to be Memorial Day to Labor Day is technically the fashionista rule.
I never heard that. Matt, all your
He's
facts
right.
are off.
Thank you.
Really?
He is right. I don't follow rules, but
Yeah, you're a rule breaker.
I am. I do follow food safety rules. I am ServSafe certified and
Okay.
an instructor and proctor at that. So.
Oh, good.
But yeah, the sweaty people outside the gym.
Right.
Actually, they have good showers there.
They
I'll say.
really do.
Yeah.
It is a great facility.
Yeah.
But in looking at what used to be there, in looking at other coffee shops, what I see are carb-laden, heavy, sweet, unnutritious items. And coming from India, nutrition is a part of everything that we do. Even when it tastes fantastic, even when it's deep fat fried, even when it's laden with everything that you think would be bad, it all has a balance and a purpose for being there. So our plates are very balanced in India, and there's no balance on plates in America.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to think about, okay, what would give people nutrition, a burst of energy, give them the right amount of carbs, protein, and all of that coming out of the gym, something that they wouldn't have considered because, poor them, they haven't grown up with Indian food, you know? So Yeah, that's what informed that decision.
I love that, and I want to unpack that because a couple of things. One, I want to get into Indian spices and those things. Why I'm not eating more of that, I don't know. But also the perspective on food being nutrition and it being energy. And I was having, I was reading the indie article about you and having that perspective. And my son, who's 4, was telling me about he was telling on one of his classmates. And he was like, oh, Xavier, he has so much candy and all he eats is candy in his lunch. And I was like, oh yeah, Xavier.
Oh, yeah.
But after
Kennedy's mine in Charlotte's world. Oh, Kennedy, always with the candy.
They love to tell, but secretly they just want to see if they're testing you. Like, oh, is that okay that we have candy?
Exactly.
But your reading that article provided me with such a good response because I said, well, but we eat because it's about nutrition and it's about making us healthy and it's about making us strong and helping our brains and helping our bodies if we're athletes, and he's into being an athlete and also in school. And so that provided me with the perfect answer. So thank you for that.
I'm glad to help without even realizing I was helping.
Yeah, you were helping. But it is true. I mean, we don't think about that. And especially like on this podcast, because food is so much of comfort and enjoyment and stuff like that. But there's no reason, you're right, that it can't be both.
It ought to be both. It's supposed to be both.
Yeah.
That's the piece that's missing. We think about food in terms of good or bad here, whether it tastes good and is bad for you, or if it tastes bad, it's supposed to be good for you. That is so completely ass backwards.
Right.
I'm sorry, but it is.
Yeah, if it was like a relationship, this would be an unhealthy relationship to be in, where it's like you're going to the extremes all the time rather than just saying like, no, you can have a little bit of both and respect yourself and feel good about what you're trying to eat and consume.
Well, and can I just say it like this? If what you're eating tastes great, if you don't have to care about whether it's good for you or not, isn't that such a relief?
Oh, yeah.
I'm so sorry. I put it on Do Not Disturb, but
It clearly disturbed.
because only my children's messages come through.
Oh, get through.
So
That's smart. Exactly. Like, and I think also I've come to this realization that we want, especially when I think when you're a chef or you're creating food, you want to impress, right? So it's like the more decadent, the better, because then that person, like, oh, we can't just have a cheeseburger. We have to have a cheeseburger with fried onion rings with bacon, and the fried onion rings are cooked in duck fat, and and then the
You sound
brioche,
like my husband.
the brioche has butter and foie gras, and it's like that is delicious, but that literally is one of the most unhealthy things that you could possibly consume.
We're not gilding the lily, we're gilding the bacon now. It's like it was already fine. But everything's extreme. That's American culture in every single way. Anytime you see an edge, you go for it and you exploit it until it's gone. It's the chopping down of rainforest syndrome. It's like we got all this. Let's take it until it's gone.
Yeah.
Rather than just saying, cool, that's a good thing that we have, and we should reserve it and use it sparingly so we have it forever, and that we don't ruin it.
Yeah. And that it can be both, and we don't have to be guilty about indulging in good food.
Yeah, because I will say, foolishly, I did not have breakfast this morning, and I did drink a ton of coffee. And I'm going to say this, though. I got one problem
okay.
with Cheeni.
Okay.
And I don't think it's your fault.
Bring it on.
Hours of operation are insane. I took a picture, and we might have to post it. This is negative, so sorry.
It's okay.
But I was like, I'm going to go get some Cheeni right before the podcast today. I got
knowing that we were going to be gifted with some delicious veggie puffs and
so thank you for satiating me, because I was a little hangry for a moment. But I went over there, and it's like open early, like 6:30, 7 a.m., like a gym would be early on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Or not Friday, Monday, Wednesday. It's Tuesday, Thursday, 11:30 is the opening time, and then closed Friday, Saturday.
Right.
But I realize this is more gym related, and it's obviously COVID related.
Yes.
Probably limited people. They want to have limited people coming through.
Yes.
But I was a little pissy out front. I'm like, I came here for food, and I didn't get it, which is frustrating, I imagine, and that's probably something you deal with because you're inside a business.
That's correct. We had that frustration last year.
Yeah.
Because by nature to go business, I could have been open the entire time and didn't have to participate in lockdown. But because I was inside a gym, which was not supposed to be open, I was locked down.
Yeah.
After 4 months of being in business.
Is there any discussion, especially from the YMCA, to reopen to somewhat
Yes.
normal hours? Okay.
Well, they're trying. So just like the YMCA, we have the same problem, right? It's not if you open it, will they come? They're not coming.
So you're spending money on overhead and staffing.
Precisely. Precise. Money I don't have, right? Because who has it after a year something?
All the people, all the front of the house workers who don't want to go back to work, who are sitting at home collecting unemployment.
Don't say
Shots
that.
fired.
Do not
Get back
say.
to work, people.
Oh,
Do you think that's a bad narrative to say out loud? I think it's true.
I don't think it's necessarily true. I think think about this. If workers who are quote unquote sitting home making more money on unemployment, that means they weren't being paid enough in the first place.
That is a very nice way of saying it. But I also know who I was, and I'm only speaking about me. So again,
Yeah.
all the snowflakes out there, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about me.
Yeah.
When I was 23 and I was a bartender, if I could be told you didn't have to come into work, and instead of making $1,200 a week, you'll make $1,000 a week. Those are probably bad numbers, but I'm thinking
Those are bad numbers.
Well, I was in California, so everything was much more expensive.
Yes.
And that was more realistic. So, but whatever. Let's just say make 80% of what you used to make, but you don't have to get up and you don't have to do anything.
And you don't
can
have to
just
deal
sit
with
there.
rude people?
Yeah, I'd be like, Psh, dude, fire up the bong. Let's play some foosball. I'm going to be drunk all day long, which is also super unhealthy for your lifestyle and your health, which is part of this whole thing. Like,
Yes.
people aren't working, but people are packing on pounds because the gyms aren't open.
Correct.
People aren't doing what they're supposed to do, and there's no motivation to not do that. And
Yes.
so I just know that anyone that was like Max Trujillo at 23, that is now 23 and experiencing this, may have a very similar mentality going, Psh, dude, we're not going to deal with all these a-holes that come in here and barely tip me or do whatever, or the a-holes I have to work with because the situation of the food and beverage industry and the restaurant is just broken. I get all that. But also there's a selfishness of just saying,
Absolutely.
fuck it, I'm sitting at home.
Absolutely. And I completely understand that, right? But being older, I have a different perspective, which is that we have been in a perfect storm situation. What happens after? Is anybody paying attention to what the fallout of all of this is going to be? That unemployment's not going to last forever. Have you been working on a different skill set? Have you been trying to go into a different industry? Have you been trying to hone the skills that you have?
Well, what happens when so-and-so, the 23-year-old Max, does finally go back to work, and that same 23-year-old Max breaks his arm for something, slips and falls and breaks his arm. Now he has to, be on unemployment for some time, and they're like, oh, sorry, you used it
all
all.
gone.
That's what I'm trying to say. People are not being forward thinking. Everyone is short-sighted. They've got the blinders on. Everybody's fighting with everybody else. Somebody's on one side. Everybody's on one side of the divide or the other, no matter what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And
Breaking the arm is a bad example because you
I
could
know.
probably get disability for that. But, you get fired because you're a lousy employee, and now what?
And now what? No one's thinking about the now what. What we have to come out of this on the other side. The only constant is change, right? What happens when the situation is better, different? What happens?
Well, I'm not a genie in a lamp or anything, but you're not going to work now. It is going to change where restaurants are going to open and they're going to figure it out.
June 1st, yeah.
And then there's two things that's going to happen. There's either going to be a flood of the market of people that want jobs, but
Yes.
guess what? You weren't here when I needed you, and now I've figured it out, so I don't need you anymore, so go figure it out.
right.
Or the tech companies are going to figure out, and they're going to figure out how to get robots. And we're literally not going to have hospitality workers except for a manager and somebody who knows how to run the computer, because you're just going
Have you
to...
seen the delivery bots in San Francisco that
Yep.
are like 6-wheel trams that are delivering
Yes.
your food to
They figured
your
out.
houses?
Yeah.
They programmed a robot to make paella in Spain, for crying out loud.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want that robot.
I know, seriously.
But I mean, yes, and maybe we're coming out as like the Gen Xers all pissed off about whatever, but it has to be said a little bit, and
A little bit, but then you have to get back to reality. You have to start thinking about the future because the future still exists.
but the 23-year-old Max will say to you guys right now, Matt, that sounds fine, but I actually think I call bullshit because I know that every restaurant is struggling for employees. And so when June 1st, as Preeti mentioned, happens and restaurants can be kind of fully open, so to speak, they're going to hire me because they need me. And they know that I once was fine then and I took a year and a half off or whatever, but that job's going to be there because I know every restaurant person, and I'm speaking as the old Max, I know everybody that's running a restaurant and now cannot fill those jobs and hire anybody. So we're going to hire all those people. I'm about to open up a bunch of restaurant or places. I'm going to need to hire people.
Right.
And so I'm
but look at what you're doing.
Concerned.
But look at what you're doing with Crafton, right? I mean, it's a centrally located thing where you're going to get one server and ordering from them. So literally, and you did at White Hill,
I'm using technology to
you're
eliminate a lot of the people that could be there.
Bingo.
And and I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to.
Yeah.
In that you figured out how to run your business by not employing as many people.
Right. I did say, and no offense to the chefs, I always say that one of the biggest headaches for a front of the house manager is dealing with the back of the house.
Absolutely.
All you're doing is like trying to rehire line cooks or dishwashers that just don't show up because of whatever reason, for a myriad of reasons.
Yes.
And so now their problems are my problems, and it's like, oh man, like whatever. And then just trying to make profit off of food is always an issue.
Sorry.
And so, yeah, it is.
Especially when you're not selling alcohol, you're selling baked goods and a toast bar.
Yeah.
What do you think my margin is?
Right. Well, I mean, so, okay, we could go down that road. Maybe we'll come back to it a little bit. Let's get back. Let's veer back to you. Preeti, for one, thank you for bringing this second breakfast, or for me, my first breakfast, which I did say is the most underrated meal of the day. I've already consumed 2 items in seconds, and most people didn't even hear me chew because it was just, I had swallowed them. Please tell me what was the first cup that we had? What was this?
So that is our masala omelet quiche. So masala omelets in India, that's what we eat, right? Plain eggs are just too plain for us. So we saute onions, we'll throw a couple of sliced green chilies in there, some chopped tomatoes, saute that up, whisk up some eggs, throw them in there, and that's our masala omelet. Delicious, right? Buttered toast.
Yeah. I'm not a tomato fan just by nature, like maybe in a tomato sauce or something. Those tomatoes, one fell off, and I had a choice of eating it or leaving it there, and I went in, and I was in heaven. No, I mean, and it was so easy to eat. It wasn't too crispy or crunchy where it's like,
right.
Especially, getting out of the gym, you feel like Ron Burgundy with a gallon of milk.
Yes.
Milk was a bad choice. Like, you could think that like a pastry or something like that would be a bad idea, but the texture of your food is so quenchable.
Thank you.
It comes down really easy. What was the second one that we tried?
That's a veg puff. So I'm going to go back to what you ate just for a second.
Yeah.
So what we decided, when you're talking about how we're serving, the kind of food we're serving at a gym, for crying out loud, right? So I was very fortunate to hire this incredible baker. And so her first day at work at my commissary kitchen, I made her a masala omelet because, again, that's what I do is I feed people, right? Mm-hmm. You can't show up to shift hungry. So I fed her a masala omelet. Next thing you know, she says, hey, how about we make that into a quiche? I was like, go for it. So the crust actually is 45% einkorn wheat.
That's right.
And
Einkorn.
Exactly. So it's very nutritious, high protein. It's an ancient grain. So that's what we're doing. While it might look somewhat recognizable, the flavors aren't quite. You can relate to the flavors, but they're still new for you, yes?
Yeah.
And that's why I didn't go down heavy, because it's literally nutrition on a plate, but you're not thinking about the nutrition because it just tasted good, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to bring to you.
And the other thing about it, as somebody who loves heat and spice in food, it had heat from the chili, but it wasn't like spicy. It added flavor, and it was perceptibly heat. Now, again, I think that I have a high tolerance for heat, and my wife might eat that, and she might be like, mouth on fire. So I don't know. What did you think of heat wise?
I initially was like, ooh, this can be spicy. Like, it went in the mouth, and you got the heat, but then it dissipated very quickly.
It tempers.
Yeah.
The rest of it is meant to temper that. So
it's great for your endorphins too. Like, if your body is like popping from the gym, and then you have that in there, it's like, oh, it feels good. It's like punching you again. It's like one more rep.
Exactly. A little bit. And heat, spice in food is not meant to incinerate your palate. It's supposed to excite it and wake it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. That's exactly what it did. And so because people think of Indian food, and like I realize I never eat Indian food because my wife doesn't like spice, and she thinks about like curry, and like, oh, I don't like curry, but like
Don't talk to me about curry.
I know, because there's a million. Well, I don't know, but I know that there's a million different curries, and not a million maybe, but many different curries,
But
and
what
they all
is
taste.
curry to you?
Yeah. Well, people think about it as the yellow sauce that has a spicy, almost like sweaty smell to it, I guess.
What do they know?
That's, I don't...
Nothing.
Nothing.
Well,
Right.
like, curry spice is not a real thing.
It is not a spice.
It is not a spice. It is
No.
a type of cooking, right? It's a dish.
So in India, curry is basically like the sauce.
Right.
Right.
Curry is not the spice. What the British did, bless their hearts, when they came and colonized India,
That was the southern exclamation of bless their hearts, right?
yes.
I would love to know how you say "bless your heart" in your language. What language? You're from South India, so forgive me. I don't know what
Well,
the
I was
language.
born and raised in South India, but I'm Punjabi by community.
Okay.
So I speak Punjabi, Hindi, Tamil, English. of
How would you
course.
say "bless your heart"? in
There is
Punjabi?
no equivalent.
Oh, all right, never mind then.
But back to
So-
blessing the British heart, what they did with
Yes.
curry.
So they decided to bastardize everything they came across, right? So they threw a few spices together that put in a dish sort of reminded them, it was sort of reminiscent of something they had had in India.
Right.
So that became the curry spice to them.
Which
Right.
is ridiculous because
Mm-hmm.
also I'm sure there's so many different regionality specifics.
There are.
In
Precisely.
Yeah.
And the
So curry is, I mean, you could literally substitute the word curry for sauce.
yes, if you say you're having an egg curry,
Yeah.
you're eating hard-boiled eggs in a beautifully crafted sauce.
Okay.
It's an egg curry,
But it
chicken
could-
curry, fish curry.
Yeah.
Right.
And that could be a red sauce, a yellow sauce, a green sauce.
Yes, pretty much anything.
Basically, if you own a bottle of curry spice in your kitchen, you
Throw
are
it out.
culturally insensitive.
Yeah.
You are. See
You hear
there,
that,
snowflakes? That was one for you. 1 point, snowflake. Get rid of that curry spice. But yeah, because like it's funny because I'm an avid Top Chef viewer, and Padma is
As
like
am I.
she goes nuts on it. She's like. Did you just call this? I added curry spice to it. Like she has chastised chefs in the past that because even the chef that knows a ton about food will still not know that that is not a real thing. It's just
Right.
it's almost like saying I don't know. It's like a hot sauce and just generically saying like everything's sriracha. Like oh okay, this is sriracha. This is sriracha. No,
Good Lord, don't get me started.
right.
No, let's get you started.
Yeah. By the way, I was saying to Matt earlier, and this kind of just interweaves in this. I was saying we were talking. We talk about like what are we going to discuss on the show?
Yeah.
For one, we hadn't had to stop because we're just going. But I will say that I don't get enough female Indian perspective in my life. And I think that is a product of course, just where we live in
Right.
general. But also, if we're going to go down the path of understanding the Indian culture, it tends to be told by a man. And that's where I hear, like, what this is where this comes from, or this is wherever. And, of course, we would have to mention Cheeni Kumar's name at some point. She's been on the show, and she's
Absolutely.
amazing and super talented, and she told her story, and she is fascinating for so many reasons.
Yes.
But it's like, okay, there. I said the only other female Indian woman that we
Right.
know in the state, and like now we're done, and that's not cool. And so I think about it the way you just said, how you assimilated to the culture. Really, what you were saying was I was shutting up by not being who I really am.
That's correct.
And I think it's pretty awesome that you're now here, and like for one, you haven't shut up yet. You're just talking. You're just going.
I will tell the story about
Yes.
when my husband and I met. We actually, from first date to wedding was 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So the joke in our family is
Like
that
the Cheenie, like she opened Cheenie in 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Wow.
the joke in our family is that my husband thought he was, Indian woman. He was 25 years ago. He's marrying this docile doormat. Poor thing. He had no idea.
I thought the same thing.
Well, wait a minute. So this wasn't like arranged? I mean, I've heard.
What are you talking about? Arranged?
No,
He's
not
a
with
Caucasian
a
man.
white boy. Yeah, you're not.
Not with a white boy. He is as white as they come, Max.
Your husband went to
Yes.
Westlake
That's correct.
High School.
That's correct.
in Los Angeles.
That's
Basically.
correct.
With my wife.
Yes.
Although a little I think he's maybe a couple years older than her. I don't think they went exactly the same time.
No, they did not.
But they met somewhere, and they're like, "You went to? Oh, we went to the same high school together," which is so weird.
No, I told Felicia that my husband and Felicia have never met.
Oh, says you. I don't know. I'm just kidding. Okay, I'm gonna cut all this nonsense.
You are forgetting the story that Felicia told you.
Remember that fire up the bong thing that happened a lot of times?
23-year-old Max.
Some
came right back.
Some
Came
stories
right
actually
back.
happened. Some are in the mind.
It was something like that.
Maybe that curry was hot and gave you illusions after all.
Yeah.
Curry? There was no curry in it.
Microdosing
There was
over here? What'd you
there
put
was
in?
no curry in it. What are you talking about?
Oh my. So go back to this rapid wedding, this shotgun wedding with you and your husband, 2-week courtship. What happened? How did that happen?
Well, we met. He asked me out. He's 4 years younger than I am. We didn't even decide. It just happened that we dated every single day. And then he said, "You want to go get married today?" I said, "Sure." Because we were in LA at the time. He came home from work, picked me up, and we drove to Vegas and got married. Yeah.
Wow.
So, but it was like, you didn't think it was weird that he just mentioned you want to get married? Like, you just knew.
I didn't. He said he did. I said he was crazy, actually.
Did you were calling him on his bluff type of thing? Like, how far is he going to take this?
It was more of a, I really like you. I think you're super cute, and why not?
But also coming from an Indian family, didn't you have to check with the family,
No.
call the Maharishi? I mean,
Remember I said I'm a rule breaker. I'm not the typical Indian woman.
Wow.
So-
that's really rebellious.
I've always been a rebel.
Okay.
Like I said, I don't look like it now, but but no, I oversimplified it. Really, he was the first man that I ever trusted in my life.
Yeah.
That trust was instantaneous.
Yeah.
So,
And so what brought you to North Carolina?
higher education for our children.
Yeah, they got some good schools out here.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that was smart.
Well, we came to Raleigh by way of Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Oh.
I noticed that when you called me, there was a Tulsa, Oklahoma
Yeah.
prefix on there. I was
Yeah.
like, who's calling?
Yeah.
And I want to know, too, then for you, getting back to, being female, an Indian female woman, being an entrepreneur, opening a business, as it relates to your family. It sounds like maybe your family doesn't play a big part on the decisions that you make.
That's correct.
Yeah, I was going to say, did mom or pops kind of look down at you and say, "What? You can't open your own business," or was that even ever a conversation?
It was never a conversation.
Yeah.
My mother's an entrepreneur. She really fed our family and kept our family alive.
In what industry?
In India, she was a seamstress.
Oh, right on.
And I'm going to share more now than I have ever shared, ever publicly. But my father was a very violent alcoholic.
Wow.
And so,
Hence the lack of trust.
right, that and other things, yes. But, so, yeah. So I had my mother as an example. But that doesn't mean that, I learned from my mom, but my mom has never been the maternal figure in my life. I never met any of her expectations, ever. So...
Wow. I did tell my mom when I announced that I was opening Crafton with Kip. She said, "Oh, is this the food hall idea?" And I go, "Yeah." She's like, "Don't eat too much, honey." And I'm like, "Okay, that's funny, Mom. You're making a joke." She's like, "Well, I just see you're always around all that food." And I go, "Mom, are you making a fat joke when I'm trying to tell you I'm opening my own business?" She's like, "Huh?" I'm like, "Never mind. Did you see the Raiders drafted the offensive lineman?"
Wow.
And that was it.
So, but I don't know, not to get it into a psychological drama, but when you say she wasn't a maternal figure, she was an example of a business person for you, but not a mother figure. Did you
That's
have
correct.
a grandmother that was, or somebody else, an aunt, or somebody that was?
My aunt.
Okay.
Yes. My actually my mother's brother's wife. So yeah,
Aunt-in-law, sort of. Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
But she
Still your
has.
aunt, yeah.
When I've felt unconditional love, it's been from my uncle and my aunt, and my paternal uncle as well. They always looked at me and believed I could do whatever I wanted to do.
So did
be
they look
whatever I
at you
wanted to do.
sideways when you said, "I met this man for 2 weeks and I'm going and getting married," or "I just got married and this is my husband"?
Yeah, we actually eloped. We didn't tell anybody until after the wedding, both my husband and I. And his mom didn't speak to us at all because, good Lord, her white son married a brown woman.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
but all I got from them was love and acceptance, and
Yeah.
that love and acceptance, the first people in my husband's family, I got that from were his maternal grandparents. So Grandma Lucille, Grandpa Andy. I mean, they
And
just
that's who you mentioned, who you were baking for
Yes.
originally. Yeah.
Yes.
That's cool.
they're the ones who said, Jonathan has never looked happier, and we've known him since he was born. So thank you.
Yeah. That's
You know?
awesome.
But that's what family
That-
should be.
Yeah, validation, right? And uplifting.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
It's funny because when we had James Sampson on last week of Corner Boys Barbecue,
Mm-hmm.
we learned from him that he didn't really get so much of his culinary inspiration from his mom, but his babysitter Gracie. So was that your aunt? Like, where'd you learn some of your traditional Indian?
My aunt is the most phenomenal cook
Okay.
I know.
Cool.
I mean, actually, so is my older sister, but we're estranged. But no, my aunt is the one who all my food memories go back to her in India.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, were you ever professionally trained or just learning on? No.
I've been cooking and baking since I was 9.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that, again, a little bit of a backstory. If I didn't learn how to cook, and I baked because I loved to bake, that was for me. But I had to cook to survive. What I mean by that is my mother was off working. My father was always home drunk. And when I came home from school, I would not even have a chance to put down my backpack before I had to get in the kitchen and cook for him. Because if I didn't cook, I would get the shit beat out of me. In fact, I was beaten almost every single day of my life.
I'm sorry.
So, but yeah, if I wanted to avoid being beaten, I cooked.
Oh, man.
So
Thank you for sharing that. I mean, that's awful, but
it happened to a different person, honestly.
Yeah.
It's been so long ago, it's like it happened to a different person. So
I can hear that.
That's an interesting perspective. When you tie back to the very beginning, you said you were working with Wake Tech. But what were you doing there?
I was teaching the continuing education classes. So
I thought at first you were in the culinary side because Wake Tech
No.
has an awesome culinary division.
fantastic culinary vision.
We've been there many times. They've come to the kitchen. That whole team is awesome.
I wouldn't be qualified to teach there because I really don't know what I'm doing. I'm not being facetious or
Sure.
humble or anything. I honestly don't know techniques. I don't know a lot. I
Yeah.
just know what I know, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So, but what studies were you teaching then?
So I was actually teaching. So the program that I initiated and wrote the curriculum for and everything was a 3-week culinary boot camp for the homeless shelter downtown here at the men's homeless shelter.
Oh, wow.
So we put together a course that would give them kitchen certification, kitchen cook certification, restaurant server certification, and serve safe certification. So we tied in with them, and I would go into the homeless shelter, 16 men, most of them coming out of incarceration, and me in the kitchen, and I taught them
Wow.
how to cook and got them serve safe certified and taught them how to serve because we wanted to make them employable.
Wow.
That's amazing.
That's awesome. Talk about giving back.
Yeah, because I was thinking, like, cooking the food that you're doing, baking
Yes.
the items that you've baked, they don't seem like the traditional stuff that you're going to learn out of a typical bakery. You know, I mean,
No.
obviously cookies and all that. Sure, I get that. But
But
I was wondering, like, how you are able to foster a team and then teach people how to cook this food and keep it consistent. Like, that seems like it's its own hurdle because it's not like you're just getting someone off the street that says, "Oh, I have a ton of Indian heritage cooking technique in my repertoire." So how do you connect that and have a team?
So the way I teach people how to cook, even when they come to me culinarily trained, like the baker I have, like I said, she's fantastic and she's got all the technique, all the background. Thank God for her because she keeps me organized, and I'm not a naturally organized person. So in my head I usually am, but not in my physical space. So, but I like to connect. I can teach anybody how to cook, is what I like to say, because if I can teach homeless men how to cook, I can teach 5-year-olds how to cook. It's because I teach them to taste food.
Yeah.
I will basically give them a boiled pot of vegetables and say, taste that. And then I'll teach them how to roast each vegetable and then add stock and then, add a little salt and add so layer flavor. and I ask them to taste the difference. And I can literally teach anybody how to cook because I can teach them how to taste first. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Perfect sense.
So,
Not to get too psychoanalyzing on you right here, but I was thinking about it. Do you feel that there's a little bit of connection of the dots of your father, the experience you had with him, in rehabilitating these gentlemen that probably fell on hard times, many of which, I'm just going to go out on a limb, probably were for abuse of some sort of alcohol or drug substance, and that like you are trying to help correct a wrong from your history?
100%.
Yeah.
And wasn't even like I went into it thinking that, but the more I was doing that, the more I saw my father in so many of them. And yeah, I actually, when I was in high school, my senior year, I took off 6 months from high school to go help my father at a rehab facility to really try to, just try to make his family matter to him.
How'd that go?
Yeah.
He abandoned me in the middle of a market where I couldn't get anywhere. And there were no cell phones at the time. I couldn't call anybody. And because he was literally drunk in a gutter.
Yeah. So, like Max said, yeah, that provides probably some sort of closure for you on that.
I don't even know about closure because it's not been closure. It's actually been very... it's been a constant because I still have students who'd reach out to me, who let me know about the job they got and the apartment they were finally able to get into. And they come see me at Cheeni. And
I mean, doing that work provides you some closure on your own.
I know exactly
personal,
what you meant. And I'm saying that's not closure.
That's not, okay.
It's not closure. It's a way of erasing.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair.
Because that, like you said, that wasn't you. That's a different person. You're a different person at this point.
It's erasure and change, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Fair. Well,
I'm sorry. I don't think you were expecting to get into all this.
we love it.
Are you kidding me? This is why I love this show. I love that we can do this. I mean, sometimes, like Matt said to me a long time ago, we were talking about therapy in general, and he's like, why wouldn't you go to therapy? Why wouldn't you spend money on something where you get to talk about yourself?
True.
And someone gives you perspective.
Someone
like,
who's educated and trained to listen gives you perspective.
Yeah. So all that said, Matt and I are not educated
No.
and trained to give anyone perspective, but all we could do is provide a platform for someone to speak their mind, which I very much appreciate that you have said anything that you've said right now, and I'm saddened to know that you said you very rarely ever tell anybody these stories. I think that it should be more commonplace, like just... Females in general put so much bottled in. Women that have miscarriages never talk about it.
Right.
When a 12-year-old girl has her first period, she's ashamed of it. It's like, why?
You want to talk about that?
Please.
My mother didn't tell me what a period was. I had no idea what it was.
That must have been horrifying then when you experienced your first one.
Obviously, because I thought I was dying, obviously.
Yeah.
And this boy who we were family friends, and he's the one who told me because he had 3 sisters.
Wow.
I don't think that's what my mother had in mind when she didn't want a boy to talk to me about periods, but she could have talked to me about it and, alleviated the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's just a very
so much shame about things, that are like need to be talked about, like you said, and need to be opened.
Well, and the fact that you said, thank you for bringing this. It's not like I wanted to talk about any of this, but and like you said, it's a shame people don't talk about it more. But I'll ask you a question. The people who walk into a coffee shop or who walk into Cheeni and they're coming for a cookie and a cup of coffee.
It's hard to make that transition.
Yeah, I think they want to hear about my childhood trauma.
Yeah.
No, because I have to put on this. I don't say I have to put on this happy face because honestly, that makes me happy.
Yeah.
Feeding people in general is what fulfills me, no matter which way I'm feeding them. Whether I'm feeding them by teaching them and teaching them how to cook, whether I'm feeding them literally, whether... that's why... Sorry, I don't get emotional very quick. I mean, I do get emotional, but not in relation to my work. But it does feel like I feed where I wasn't.
Say that again?
I feed in a way in which I wasn't.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, you try to
Yeah.
provide what you didn't get.
Yeah.
giving somebody a cookie and them liking the cookie is just a way for me to say, it's like a way to open that door, right? It's for me to be able to say, you eating that cookie makes me happy in a way that you simply cannot understand.
Yeah. Well, I think, but I will argue that I think people can understand it, especially if you've been a parent, and we've talked about this before.
Yes.
When you see your kids eat something, and I know because you struggle with Charlotte, like finding things to eat all the time, but it's like when they're eating, it's one of the most satisfying, validating things as a parent you can
absolutely
experience.
Is.
Yeah.
And that is why I wanted, I never had any career aspirations growing up. All I wanted to be was a wife and mom. I think I wanted to do it right, or the way I wanted to do what was not done for me.
And how many children do you have? 2
daughters.
2 daughters. So do you think, what are their ages now?
Well, one will be 21 next month, and the other will be 18 in July.
So, like, you boxes checked, right? Like, you raised them. They're adults now.
Yeah, how well, I don't know. How much therapy they'll need, I don't know, but I raised them.
But the fact that I think you have perspective is, and I mean, whether it's conscious or not, or you're just doing the things you do just because it's what makes you feel right, I think is helping, I mean, who knows? We'll do part 2 with only your kids, and we'll see how they feel.
Yes. Good luck with my older one. She's a
The apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the things you always think, like when kids and they like frustrate you and whatever, you're like, oh, I'm mad because you're doing exactly what I do.
That's correct.
And that's it. You're like, you stubborn little brat. Oh, you're just like me.
Yeah.
That is correct.
Yeah. Hey, I do want to learn one other thing before we get out of here. Because,
Sure.
I mean, I eat your food and I am genuinely intrigued, and I'm thinking, okay, I want to. Well, first of all, are any of these gluten-free? I know you're using some ancient grains, so...
What I brought you today is not, but we actually do have gluten-free options at the shop, and we use ancient grains from India.
Okay.
We use bajra and jowar, which are sorghum and millet flours.
Okay.
High protein, peasant food, gluten-free naturally. Yeah.
Good. Okay, because we talked about, but it's like the Pulp Fiction. I'm a vegetarian because my wife's a vegetarian. So it basically makes me a vegetarian. But I'm not gluten free. But
Right.
I'm not going to go for a date or something with a place where we can't get gluten free. So,
Right.
But also, I think like being the expressiveness of flavor of Indian food and the beautiful expression of the heat, like you said, that excites the palate, doesn't damper,
Right.
kill the palate. I want to get more into it. So I want to know, like, one, where besides Cheeni can I go, or would you go to like eat authentic Indian food? But and what should I try, that will really be a different experience?
So my experience with restaurants here, unfortunately, is that they are
Americanized, or what we expect.
what you expect, but can you blame them?
No,
because
Right, they're trying to sell food.
they're trying to sell food.
Yeah.
And that's why with my space, I'm happy because I'm selling items like idli and sambar and uttapam and kottu parantha that people have no idea what they are. But let me tell you, all those white men and women who go to the gym, they come now and ask for idli sambar and kottu parantha and stuff because they had no idea something like that existed.
Yeah.
Except for they go, I'll have the second one there. I'll have the one that's the number 2.
They start off that way.
Yeah.
They're
and then they learn.
now calling them by name.
Oh, nice.
I am very proud. I'm very proud.
and we did kind of bury a little bit. You now have a second location
Yes.
that's on Hillsborough Street at the other YMCA.
That's correct.
So now you're like linked to YMCA.
Only because they asked me. Again, they asked me at the end of January, and we opened March 1st.
Yeah.
That's such an interesting ask. Like, who asked you? Where did they find you?
Well, because they already know me from the Pointer YMCA.
No, but okay, but how'd they
the
find
first
you
one.
for Pointer to begin with?
Through Wake Tech.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like because they knew you were doing that program,
Yes.
and did they
Yes.
taste your food and say, "Oh, we have
No.
Matt, do you know what the YMCA stands for?
to"? Of course I do. The Young Men's Jewish Association.
Okay, so but you connected with YMCA. So is this like part of the new strategy? I mean, there are a lot of YMCA's around. So
There are a lot of YMCA's around. It tickles me, honestly. But I I had people come from the A.E. Finley YMCA on Bailiwick Road.
Yeah.
That's the one you used to go to,
That
right?
was my local haunt.
That
Yeah.
was mine as well.
Yeah.
They came from there to use the facilities at Alexander because they had to try our food.
Yeah.
Nice.
And they said, when are you opening in Finley?
Yeah, I mean, why not?
And
it's
Holly
all-
Springs, by the way, has a beautiful YMCA facility out there.
They do. And I was just asked, actually, if from the Durham YMCA, if we would ever consider opening there.
Wow.
It's crazy to
Seems
me.
like a low barrier to entry because at least where you said you're doing your food in a commissary.
Yes.
And so you don't need a hood or anything. It's basically a cart, if you will, or a stand. I mean, it's a little more involved than that, but I'm
Yes.
saying like you don't need to dig plumbing and dig
No.
gas and grease traps or any of that
No.
stuff. So yeah, why not? Keep going.
It's a low barrier to entry. The YMCA is honestly the most fantastic organization I ever worked with. I mean,
Great Christian values.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, I just did.
Are you being facetious?
Yes, a
A little bit.
But
I
Jews
know.
over here.
I know.
yes.
Okay, look, as a complete atheist who was raised Catholic, my daughter and I, Charlotte, we just did the spring outing with
Right.
the YMCA with
Yeah.
the Y Guides.
Yeah.
It's funny, so many people don't realize that Y Guides is connected to YMCA.
Of course it is.
Yeah, that's what the Y is. But aside from all of the potential religious undertones,
Mm-hmm.
it really is just kind of like, hey, what's their super redundant motto? Pals forever, friends always.
Right.
I'm like, you do know you're just said the same thing. You didn't say
Different-
pals and friends are the same word,
Right,
and always
right,
and
right.
forever is the same.
But point taken, the tenets of their philosophy,
Yeah, it's
the basis is
about
great,
like
great
family,
messaging.
friends, and coming together.
Everybody
and,
I have dealt with, from directorship to managers to staff, I like them because they behave like wonderful, genuine human beings. Whether that comes from their Christian values or not, the fact that they're wonderful human beings, that's what I connect with.
Yeah, absolutely.
know,
Yeah, I'm always the cynic and
So-
everything. I'm like, why was the
As
Y
am
Guides
I.
designed? Like, what are
Yeah.
they trying to do? Oh, they're just trying to get dads to devote specific time with their daughters. Damn them.
Something devious in there.
Cursed people.
Now, as a former Christian, not one who was raised Christian, but I was a Sikh, a very proud one at that, and then got I kind of drank the Kool-Aid for a few years, and then thankfully stopped being brainwashed a few years ago, and
Yeah, sorry, religious snowflakes on this one.
oh, my husband's one of them.
yeah.
Oh,
It's all right.
okay.
We won't go there. He didn't used to be, which is why we got married, see?
Yeah.
Anyway.
And now he's
Anyway.
found it.
There is nothing wrong with religion.
No.
There's nothing wrong.
No.
Matt's a man of the cloth over here.
I don't know about the cloth. but-
He's got a cloth. You
I
wear a
have a cloth. Not to bring the mood down in the room for a minute, but you're a person of Indian descent, and we all know what's going on there right now. Do you have any insight into how it can be helped, or is there a forest through the tree there?
What are you referencing?
He's
The
talking about
COVID
COVID-19.
epidemic re-emerging in
Okay.
India.
I mean, yeah, because there's
Yeah.
a myriad
because
of
there's
things.
other problems in India too.
Well, yeah,
right.
right.
But honestly, the situation, it's a forest fire out of control. But I believe that if one person can do one thing and influence somebody else to do another thing, you can make an impact. You can help people. If you can help 2 people, 3 people, 5 people, you're doing something for a situation that's out of control. So to that end, there are 2 organizations that I do support.
Oh, okay.
And one is called Khaana Chahiye, which means...
You're going to have to spell that for us.
Of course. It's Khaana. Next word is Chahiye, which is Chahiye. So it means need food. And this Indian chef has, total grassroots effort, but now has fed millions of people through this effort. So actually, I'm not somebody of influence. Like I just don't have my little circle, But
that's like you said, you feed one, you feed 2. Yeah.
yeah. So we're participating in Dine Out Downtown again this month. And there's one this Saturday and one on the 22nd. And I'll have food there. People can come in and buy whatever they want, but we're not charging for it. They can just make donations.
Dine Out Downtown on May 22nd.
And the 8th of May.
The 8th, which, is this weekend.
That's correct.
This has already happened, and it was a great event. because this is being released the following
True,
week.
that's
Yes.
true.
But you can get it on the 22nd, which is great. Well, before you get out of here,
Yes.
we'll let you do the thing that Americans do so well. They take one thing, not good enough. You got to take another thing that's also great and just smash it together. Talking about proof alcohol ice cream. Think differently about your dessert because ice cream wasn't good enough. No. We
We
said
had to get our drink on with the
I
ice
want
cream.
some bourbon in that thing. Yeah, and I can't hold two vessels in my hand. I can't have a scoop of ice cream in a bowl and a shot glass. I need to put this all in one thing.
Right.
I kid. They actually did a good thing. This is a great blend of two things
Yes.
to come together, and it doesn't feel like it was like forcibly put together. It kind of felt like it always was supposed to be there. It's the peanut butter and chocolate kind of
Sure.
blending of ice cream and alcohol. You can have flavors like coconut rum or bourbon caramel, strawberry moonshine. So many, and then they always do cool seasonal flavors. We're heavily anticipating the next flavors that come out for the new spring season. But, or I should say, the summer season. But you can go to Proof Alcohol Ice Cream to figure out where they sell their products. But we already know you can get them at the Triangle Wine Company. You can go to Total Wine or Lowe's or Harris Teeter. They are now, I believe, in 7 states and growing, all because of the NCF&B podcast. 100%. But we have a beautiful red branded freezer here in our studios at the kitchen from Proof Alcohol Ice Cream. And that's the same freezer that you would find in any of the aforementioned locations. So before you leave, take a scoop or take a pint of ice cream with you and just walk down the street and eat it. Just damn bit, who cares? Just alcohol on the street. No one knows. Looks like ice cream.
I will do it. I will walk around 3
Walk
blocks,
back
do
to
that.
Cheeni.
Yes.
Yeah.
I will do that.
You might have to take a full loop to finish the whole pint of ice cream before you get there.
How do you know?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it
I
takes you
could
only
just- exactly.
the 18 steps that it takes to get back to your location.
Exactly. How would you know?
Yeah.
It is pretty damn tasty. And as you said, it also is available at Triangle Wine Company, which also, for all your wine or vermouth and beer needs, is a great venue to get it. Good news also from the Triangle Wine Company. They are imminently about to launch their new website.
Oh.
And so that is going to make it much easier for anybody to order online and find products. And they are a great friend and a great sponsor of our show. So go to trianglewineco.com, use the NCFB promo code for a discount. Also, you can go see them in person in Morrisville, in Cary at the Waverly Place location, in Holly Springs, where you're going to bring your Cheeni to, or their new place. Also, they're out in Southern Pines, and they have their place in Bedford, in the Bedford community of North Raleigh.
Wow.
One thing else I want to talk about, and this is kind of like getting out the scoop before it's even been like created, but Max, we talked about this. We're going to do it. And so this is like the first, but we've had a lot of feedback from our James Sampson episode.
I didn't know you were going to mention this. I was like, okay.
No, we're going to do it. So we're doing brisket and bubbles. Details.
Bubbles and brisket.
Bubbles and brisket.
I mean, whatever.
Whatever. You say tomato.
Bubbly brisket.
You say
Bubbly brisket.
You say Preeti, she, and everybody else says Preeti.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we're going to do it. More details to come, but start, filling up our DMs and our inbox with what you'd like to see there or who you'd like to see there, because it's going to happen.
Well, this is the idea, though. We want a bunch of different styles of brisket, and we want a bunch of different types of champagne or sparkling wines,
Any
if
types
you
of
will.
sparkling wine,
Even
yeah.
like local North Carolina sparkling. Like, hey, anybody listening that knows a good North Carolina sparkler, get them in touch with us. I already know that the Biltmore makes a pretty decent sparkling. I think it's actually the 100% Chardonnay that they make is grown on the property of Biltmore, so maybe that could be a cool thing. But I also want some
Stardust,
badass
Nico.
French champagne too.
Oh, that's going to happen.
And then maybe I was tossing it around, but maybe all the chefs or the pit masters that throw down their brisket, they also have to pair it with a delicious side, so that the customer that comes in can have champagne, sample maybe 5 or 6 different types of brisket, and then sample all the little sides, because you're going to want a little more diversity of flavor while you're sitting there. And so put it all together. Maybe we get some desserts thrown in there too. Yeah. So this is all literally we're just brainstorming
now,
it.
but-
So we are going to do it. but date TBD. But maybe not too far in the future. We'll get this done soon because it's fun and it's time. It's time, people.
Yeah.
It is time.
Time
It
to
is
see our beautiful
time.
faces.
That's right.
Well, Matt, what else
Otherwise,
we got?
Preeti, thank you so much for being here and sharing all your story. I mean, that was really something special, and thank you for what you do, especially with Wake Tech and giving back to the community like that and making these people employable. I mean, that's something that's really should be lauded.
Thank you.
And so, for all of you out there, make sure the Y is open, but when it is,
Work out.
then go to Cheeni and you will eat and drink extremely merrily.
Thanks for listening to the NC-F&B podcast. And if you've stuck with us this long, review us on iTunes and remember, 5 stars are encouraged.